Today, I turned this pile of parts into a stern drive, Outdrive jack stand. Hello everybody, welcome to Challenge to Build. My name is Paul Michael, and in today's video, this pile of parts is going to be turned into a Outdrive or stern drive jack stand. I have the majority of the pieces cut and prepped, so with that, let's challenge the build. So that right there is a brainstorm of the initial idea that I had for building this. It's pretty simple. Excuse the crudity of the drawing. I am not a really good drawer. I like to build and design at the same time, but I still do put my thoughts out on paper. The lifting aspect will be taken care of this trailer jack. It is a square 2.5 inch jack made by Ram. The chassis, I guess you could say, or the frame of the lift is made out of 2x2 square 1/8 wall tubing. I have a piece of 2x2 quarter wall, and then I have a little bit of 2.5 square quarter wall, and then the actual forks will be made from 1.5 inch 1/8 wall. Gussets, 1/4 inch gussets, and plates for the casters. These are 5-inch swivel, rated at 375 pounds a piece. I got these at Harbor Freight. I was originally going to do pneumatic casters, so that way I could use this out in the yard as well. But for the quality of the casters, for the price of them, I was just unhappy with them, so that is what I chose. A lot of the prep work, like I said, was done in advance. Again, this is just solely an idea for you to take and then completely build your own version of this. This is my rendition of it. This is how I built it. And as we put it together, you will see how this will function. The first part of the build that I'm going to do is going to be the chassis and or the frame. So I'm going to get this thing mocked up, set up, get my welders ready to go, and get this thing knocked out. So one thing I want to point out real quick is I have these legs cut at 10 degrees on this end near the back. The back casters are swivels, and I have rigid casters for the front. Now, because this angle was cut at 10 degrees, the plates up at the front also need to match this angle. So I have my little angle finder set at 10 degrees on the square edge, and I have to make sure that these plates run at 10 degrees, so that way when the casters go on, the casters run true to straight. if I was to offset them with the leg, it wouldn't really roll too well, and it would end up binding and want to push away from each other. So like I said, this is only an idea for you to build yours. This is how I'm building mine. If you replicate this, make sure you pay attention to how your casters are running and how you have your plates set up. Also, with the plates and the casters run like a 4" by 4.5" bolt circle, or square pattern, whatever you want to call it. Also, when you put the nuts on the casters, I'm using 3/8 carriage bolts with 3/8 nuts. The 3/8 nuts, with the way that they are patterned, I'll see if I can show you. When you put the nut on, you're going to have to probably use a wrench rather than a socket, but they are super tight to the frame. So again, just be mindful of those kind of things when you design and build. I will be able to clear that, but as you can see, the clearance is really, really tight. These are obviously things that as you build and design, you will find out and have to work around them or figure out a way to use them. Let me continue on with the welding and get these plates tacked in, so that way you can see what this thing's actually going to look like. So the next step for me is I'm going to install the casters. It's a little bit more of the same process. I'm going to fast forward to when this is together. And within a few minutes, you can see kind of what I'm trying to work with here. The wheels track pretty good, moves around real nice, and now you can kind of see the basis or the foundation of the actual lift. This is the jack that I'm going to use. It is what they consider a drop foot jack. However, we're not using the drop foot. I'm actually going to probably put this up for sale on eBay. I have a link down below. If you need a drop foot jack for a 2.5" square ram, eBay, check it out. Instead of that, what I'm going to use is just a standard piece of 2x2 1/8 wall. I spent some time drilling out new holes. This slides in and out just like that. The reason I am doing that is for the mounting. This is where the 2.5" square, oh crap, I forgot. I gotta file out that weld inside this channel. So now I'm over at my vise. I have the 2.5" square tubing in the vise. I have my weld side on the bottom facing up, and all you have to do is use a standard hand file and file down the weld until it's smooth, and then keep checking it with the piece of 2" receiver that you want to put into it. Now, if you do not want to hand file it, there's other ways to clean out the weld, and I'll show you what it looks like. There's a little weld from when they manufacture their pipe right in here, and that is what I'm cleaning out. Obviously, you could probably YouTube search how to clean the weld out of square tubing. Fireball Tool has made a cool video and showed how to make a cool tool, how to remove it in a longer piece of pipe. So if you need to know how to clean it out better, other than using a hand file like I'm going to do, run over to Fireball Tool and check out his video on how to clean out the weld. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of minutes and clean out this weld, and then we'll get back to the build. All right, let's try that again. After about 10 or 15 minutes of hand filing out the weld, the receiver now fits in the 2" square. I'll get this tacked in, get the gussets tacked in. I also have a cap for the bottom. I'll go ahead and weld the cap or the plate on the bottom this way here, when the jack slides down in, it'll slide down in and then rest on the bottom. So that's what's next, and kick off the music and let's get to welding. So for the receiver, I left it up about 3/8 of an inch off of the bottom rail, which will allow me to run a nice weld through here and allow this to be super strong rather than bringing it down flush, running a weld flat on the top of it and then having to grind it down this way here. It just allows me to have more meat. What I did realize is I forgot to put the bottom cap plate on, so that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to flip this back over, put the cap plate back on, and then put the jack in and continue on. So after probably about an hour's worth of welding or so, as you can see, here is the lift. Now how we are going to attach the forks is I have a piece of 2-inch square quarter wall. What I'm going to do is tack weld the bottom gusset on, put in the bar, center the bar left to right, and then add one more gusset on the top, like so, sandwich everything in. So that is the next part of the process. Let me go fire up the welder and get to welding. So I made a mistake with my build here. I got a little carried away with my welding and my gussets, and I have put a gusset right in my way. I should have listened to my own advice in the beginning of the video when I said be careful about where I'm placing welds. This time I need to be careful about where I'm placing gussets. On the back of the jack, I welded this gusset in on here. And what that did was now I can't close my jack or my forks far enough. So now that's what you get to see me do. Get to cut something apart that I just made, clean it up, I'll box it in, continue on with the welding, and then I'll build the forks, and we'll pretty much wrap it up. So continue on. All right, as you can see, I finished cutting and grinding this all back nice and clean. what I'll end up doing is I'll cut a small piece of plate. I'll box this little area in here, weld all this up, grind all that down nice and smooth so you won't see that. This way here now, the sliders will come all the way in and I'll have my minimum width that I need of about 6 to 7 inches in between the forks. So you could probably do without these, and that would obviously give you a minimum of like 2 inches in there. But I really feel as though that this needed the extra support in here, so not what I anticipated. I definitely completely missed the sliding in of the forks. But all in all, it only took a little bit to get it squared away. I'm gonna fire the welder back up and continue welding all of the brackets in on this, and then I will start working on the forks. Now we're on to a little bit of an easier task, which is building the forks, which is going to be pretty straightforward. I cut the forks at 36 inches long on the bottom. These are around 16 inches long. One thing that you have to be aware of for this design is they have to be long enough at the lift's lowest point. So mine is actually not down all the way. There it is right there. So these will work out pretty good. So pretty straightforward. These get welded to here. Then I have 1/4 inch, 3 inch gussets that I'm going to weld here to strengthen these. And then for the adjustments, I have 2.5 inch square. But right now I'm going to weld the forks up and then weld these sliders up. So I made another rookie mistake in filming. I thought I hit the record button and I didn't, because I was telling you about how I created these. This is a 2.5 inch piece of square that I filed out the weld in the center. I took a 1/2 inch nut, welded a 1/2 inch nut to one side. I drilled a hole through it. So now what happens is when you tighten this bolt, it'll put pressure on the receiver in here. And this way here, when I slide it, I can loosen it, slide it to where I want it, and then I can snug this up and it won't move and be a little bit more secure. So let me weld these on and get this thing together and finalize this lift so that way we can see what this thing's going to do. Well, here is the finished lift. I finished welding the forks up and put them in, installed them. And as you can see, with the 2.5 inch channel to the 2 inch square, and then the adjustment bolt on the back, they slide left and right pretty easily. I need to kind of clean everything up a little bit more. The crank works pretty smoothly. The quick adjustment for the up and the down by removing this pin. Pull out the pin, slide it up, put it back in. It rolls around pretty nice, goes up, goes down. So I will recap a little bit about how this was built. I started off with 2 inch by 2 inch square 1/8 wall square tubing. For the frame or chassis, I have 1/4 inch plates for the casters. The casters themselves are 5 inch polyurethane casters. I have straight casters or rigid casters in the front, and then I have 2 swivel casters in the rear, which allow me to move the rear of this around pretty easily. The forklifts parts are 1.5 inch square 1/8 wall tubing. There's a piece of 2" by 2" quarter wall welded to it, which allows me to slide the forks left to right. I'm in just under $300 on this. So even if I use it one time and I successfully change out the Outdrive without any failures, to me that is a success. So that is the end of this build for me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, this is an idea of something that you could build on your own. And with that, my name is Paul Michael. This has been Challenge the Build. Now it's time for you to go out and challenge your build. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. So it is the day after the build, and because I did not get a chance to edit and upload a video, I figured I would take a minute and let you know how the function of the lift actually worked today. The lift functioned pretty well. There definitely needs to be a few modifications made to it. The first off is with the casters. The casters, I would probably recommend putting locking casters in the rear. When we were using it and trying to finagle and push on the Outdrive, it would want to roll back and roll actually off of the Outdrive. So I would say that locking casters are a must for at least the rear, maybe the front as well. So that's the first option, or the first change that I would make. The second change that I would make is, because of all the added structure in this area here, when I originally designed this, I wasn't supposed to put these angle gussets in here, which does not allow me to slide the forks all the way over. So unfortunately, when we were using it, there's a distance of about 7 or 8 inches in between the forks, and I needed a distance of either 4 to 5 inches. So either one of two options: I have to cut these gussets out completely, which I am not going to do because I really like the added strength within this part of the frame. So what my decision is going to be is I will probably make some kind of adapter that will slip onto the fork, made out of probably 2" angle iron. And then what I'll end up doing is sliding on the adapter here on either side, and then probably put some kind of like rubber strip or some kind of padding specifically on the flat part of the angle, and then it'll allow me to slide these in on either side, which will allow me to close the gap up in here. And then also, when we were using this, the distance of the thickness of the steel tubing was hindering the prop from moving. So when you're putting the Outdrive back on, when you go to slip it back in, it's very important to be able to move the prop spindle back and forth. The props were still on it. Sometimes they're removed, so if they weren't there, you would be able to do that, but the props on this one stayed on the Outdrive. So when that is the case, you need to be able to spin the props, to be able to spin the input shaft, to be able to slip it back into splines. So with having the distance in the width and then putting the angle on, it will allow me to be able to bring the lift up higher, which will ultimately solve some of the problems that I had. Overall, was worth the money spent. There's going to be multiple uses for this within the shop. One of my Twitter followers suggested using it as a tire lift. So multiple use lift, worth the money, I think, to build one. I could easily put a new pipe in and have an engine stand as well. So ultimately, it's worth the money. It definitely saved our backs when we were installing the Outdrive. So overall success. That is the update for this. And again, I appreciate you watching. If you are still watching, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the build. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Also, all of my support for this channel right now comes from eBay. There's a link in the description below for my eBay store, Challenge to Build. I also want to touch on reaching my 1,000 subscribers. I want to thank all of you who have subscribed and are still subscribing. I'm going to run a promo code for my eBay store. We're going to do a coupon, Build 1000, to commemorate the 1,000 subscriber mark. So we're going to run a 25% off sale with that coupon. So run promo code Build 1000. I'm probably going to run that code for about a month, and that'll save you 25% off your purchase within my eBay store. So again, thanks for watching. Go challenge your build, and I'll see you all in the next video.